another door, and we walked through and they closed that. And as soon as that door closed, I realized that my freedom was really in the hands of these prison guards. That I really wasn't free any longer. I was trapped. I was locked inside that prison. And really, if the guards told me to do something, I would have to do it as well. If there was a riot that broke out, the guards said to do something, I would have to do it. So I felt my freedom go. And then we walked about another 10 or 15 yards further in, and we came to about a 15 or 20 foot high fence with barbed wire on it, and we passed through another gate. And then we walked another 10 or 15 yards, and we came to another fence that was about 20 feet or higher or so, and with barbed wire. We walked through that gate. And once we got to that fourth gate, we were actually inside the prison courtyard. And there was another small building where they conducted their chapel, where they conducted their church service. We went in, and there was probably about 125, 150 or so inmates in there. And we led the worship, we gave the sermon, and we talked to them. We talked to them before the service, we talked to them after the service. And some of them I felt like I really connected with. And looking at them, they just looked like people. A lot of them, they just looked like ordinary people. Some of them had families they hadn't seen in years. They don't get a lot of visitors inside the prison, so just being there and seeing a new face, seeing somebody new, to them was just a delight. They were just happy to see us and happy to be there. And after a few hours, we left. We left the prison. I walked back through each one of those gates, and when I got through that last gate, that last door, and it closed behind me, and I finally got my wallet back, my ID and everything, I felt a sigh of relief. I felt that I had my freedom back. And even though I was only in prison for a few hours, I know that I don't like prison. I don't like prison life, because there's a life, there's abundant life, and there's a full life outside of the prison walls. Outside of the prison gates, outside of the prison doors, there is a life waiting for me to be lived. I have a wife and children, and there's McDonald's French fries to be eaten, and pig intestines to be eaten, for those of you that were there last night. There's life and there's enjoyment to be lived, and I want to experience it. I want the full life. I don't want to stay inside the prison walls or the prison cell. I want to experience life and experience it to the fullest. An abundant life, a rich life, a life that is enjoyable. And so on the 2-hour car ride back home, I started to wonder, why is it that I got to go home at the end of the day? After that church service, I got to leave the prison, but all the inmates, they had to stay there. They had to go back to their prison cells. Why is it that I get to experience life? Why is it that I get to have it to the full? I get to experience life outside of the prison walls, and they don't. And after thinking about this, I came to a very profound conclusion. And this was my conclusion. It took me about 2 hours on the way home. I came to the conclusion the reason why I get to experience life and they don't is because they're in prison. 6 years of education, and you can come to these types of conclusions on your own as well. So 2 years at seminary, I was able to come to this conclusion myself. I'm able to enjoy life because I'm not in prison, and they are. And ultimately, they've somehow, at one point or another, they've made a choice. They've made a decision that has put them in prison, that has locked them up, that has put them into a prison cell. It has chained them. It has enslaved them in a sense where they are no longer able to experience life. They are chained. Those gates, those bars, those doors, those armed prison guards keep them locked up, confined, so that they are not able to experience the life that is outside of the prison. And what is true in the physical world is also true in the spiritual world. We can make decisions and we can make choices that bind us, that chain us, that chain our soul and our heart and our emotion. It can chain our lives and put us in a prison where we are not able to experience the full, abundant, rich life outside the walls of the prison. We're not able to experience that rich and full life that God has intended for us to enjoy and to experience. And so that's what I want to talk to you about today. I want to talk to you today about these chains. What are they? And how can we be free of them? What are these chains? What are these things that keep us bound, that keep us locked down? And how can I get free of them? How can I break free and live that full life that God has waiting for me? The Bible says that these chains, they give it a word in the Bible. And Jesus says in John 8:34, the one who sins is a slave to sin. The one who sins is a slave to sin. It has bound you, has chained you, and you're not able to break free. You are a slave to it. Well, what is sin? Well, Jesus gives us a few examples in Scripture. There's actually a lot of examples in Scripture. Some of them being, he mentions in Matthew chapter 5 and through Matthew chapter 7. And some of those things are lust. There is a chain that will enslave you, and it's called lust. And there's another chain that will enslave you, and it's called greed. And there's another chain that will enslave you, and it's called pride, self-centeredness, hate, anger. Jesus says these are chains, and when you do them and when you choose to partake in them, you are putting yourself, you are making the decision in the spiritual world to lock yourself in prison. You are putting on chains and you are shackling yourself up and you are no longer able to escape. That's what these chains are. Now I know some of you might be thinking that, no, Jeremiah, you've got it wrong. You've got it wrong. My lust is the way I experience life. My hate, that makes me feel something. My anger, that's how I experience life. My pornography addiction, that's how I experience life. And it's possible that some of you here are thinking that, and there's a lot that could be said to that, but I just want to give it one thing. I want to ask you one question. How's it working? Are you happy? Are you joyful? Are you content? Has that sin allowed you to live a free, fulfilling life? If not, Jesus gives us a solution. If you want to be broken free from those chains, from that enslavement, Jesus says there's a solution. And this is our solution. We need someone to come in. We need someone to step into the prison of our soul and break us free. We all need it. I need it, and you need it. We need someone to come into our lives and to break the chains off of us. And so who can do this? Who is up to the task of breaking your chains in your life so you can live outside of the prison walls? Can anybody do this? No. Someone who is locked up, someone who is chained up in the prison across the hall from you cannot set you free. They're chained up, they're locked up themselves. But 2 Peter chapter 2 verses 19 says that there will be people who come, and it says in 2 Peter that they promise them freedom while they themselves are slaves. Someone who is a prisoner, a fellow inmate, can't help you break out of your chains if they're all tied up in theirs. So it is silly, it's nonsensical, it doesn't make sense for us to listen to Hollywood, for us to listen to the media, and say, oh wow, happiness, joy, contentment in life means I need a lot of fame, a lot of money, I need, to be good looking, I need to have fame and fortune and prosperity. These are the things that are going to make me joyful and content. No. Why? Because when we look at them, they're not more joyful. They're not content. They're not happy. Tiger Woods is not a happier person today because he cheated on his wife. I don't have anything against Tiger Woods. He's not a happier person today because he has a lot of money. And the endorsers are dropping him. Why? Because the facade, the fake front that is being put to you has been let down. And the truth of his life has been revealed to the world. And so Gatorade says, no. We don't want you associated with our product because people will see the truth. People will see those things. And I don't want them to associate my product with you. Why? Because he's chained. He's locked up. He can't give you freedom. Someone who needs to come and break you free, they need to come from the outside of the prison walls.